Item is approved. Thank you very much. Next on our item is to ratify the claims. We do this regularly, and they've been provided to you in advance. Are there any questions on the claims? If not, I have a question on the very last one, the roofing repair job. I just thought that was a little unusual. And if, Kathy, you could say a word or two about why we got involved in that.
I can. We have acquired a few pieces of property in the Quarter Shore area that's been designated for private redevelopment. And this is the repair to a roof of one of the buildings on the property that we bought. We're continuing to lease it to a company so they can use it for their business until we need it for private redevelopment purposes. So that's what that is.
Are there any other questions on the claims?
No questions, but move approval.
Second.
Motion made and approved. Are there any further discussion? Please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Thank you very much. Now there are some items for individual consideration, and items A and B are related to a new company or an expanding company here in Oklahoma City. The first resolution is approving the allocation of money. And the only thing, this is a little different than we talked to, it's slightly less than we originally talked about. And if Brent or Kathy could explain why, I think it would be helpful.
Yes, sir. During the negotiations with the company, they were reluctant to stick with the 118 jobs at the $55,000 salary range. They felt more comfortable as they looked at more of their detail in their program and what they were wanting to accomplish. And they felt better about a $51,000 a year job at 115 jobs. And when we went back and ran that through our model, it was appropriate to reduce their allocation amount, and they're aware of that, and they were okay with that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? And, we'll consider item 4A first. And this is a resolution authorizing the money, $650,000 to be paid for the incentives that we approved earlier, or talked about earlier. Chair would entertain a motion to approve item 4A. We have a motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? This is a resolution approving the $650,000 of gold money to do this project. Larry, that's in your ward. Have you been working with those people out there? Any questions or any comments on this particular? Very good. Please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Item 4B is a companion item, and this is the development agreement that will be submitted to City Council for ultimate approval there. Are there any questions on item 4B? Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Just a procedural question, Kathy. Until the council approves, the one we just passed does or does not go into effect?
That's correct. The council concurs on it. Do they approve these? Okay. Yeah, no, it doesn't go into effect until the council approves them.
Okay, just wanted to, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion? Could we have a motion then regarding item 4B? Second. Motion made and second. Further discussion? Please cast your votes. And item 4B is approved also. Item 4C is a quarterly report for the Oklahoma City Technology Business Council initiative for the first quarter of the fiscal year. And see, Rex, you're here. Is somebody else going to give the report today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Wayne Embry, the Vice President of Entrepreneur Services for I2E, and I'll be giving the report today. I'm providing the background of this. A lot of the services and activities under this program fall under my area of responsibility at I2E, so I thought it'd be good to give you especially this report. As you know, the program that we've engaged with the city covers 6 primary areas that are listed in this slide, and I'm not going to go over those. You're quite familiar with those. The activities that we've engaged in this quarter, the executive in residence program really is a opportunity to bring expertise, world-class expertise from outside of Oklahoma here to work with our early stage companies and give them advice, mentoring, and guidance with respect to their early stage companies and the approach that they're taking. Two things in particular that we focused on, and these are, in this case, local, are our sales executive in residence activities, which is really designed to get people to first customer recognition and adoption as quickly as possible. And we work with a local company with those services and have engaged with two companies specifically this quarter and conducted 75 sales calls to do customer validation and customer adoption analysis for companies that we're looking at for investment purposes. The second activity is what we call CFO in residence, or Chief Financial Officer in residence. This is a position that we've been looking for more than a year, and hired a woman who had been a CFO at Mazio's for the last 10 years. So very extensive experience with financial analysis modeling at both the strategic and tactical level, and she was able to hit the ground running with us. And what's really important about her approach, like with the sales executive in residence, is that there's a high focus on customer and customer adoption. And so let me give you an example of how she starts out. So this is very fine print. I apologize for that. But when she starts looking at a company, she looks at it from the perspective of who's the customer. How does the company get to the customer, identify those customers, and builds the financial models around that customer identification and customer adoption model, which is extremely valuable for those companies, not just through the early analytical part, but how they go forward as a company leading to their success. And this is just one small section of a worksheet that she builds in concert with the companies, understanding all the variables that go into their model and their financial model for their business. So being able to really understand at a granular level how they go about identifying customers and the amount of time it takes to identify a customer, do a demo to a customer, recruit them, and then finally do a closing is important in terms of how much money that company has to raise and how long it will take to get to profitability. So that's just a very good example of the kind of analysis that we're going through. One of the other activities that we've been involved with is our Entrepreneur in Residence program, bringing best practices to the Oklahoma City companies. And this is a photograph from our recent Who Wants to Be an Entrepreneur. And this is Rob Wiltbank, who's an international expert in strategy and investment from both angels as well as early stage venture capitalists. And this year at Who Wants to Be an Entrepreneur, we changed the format and added a section that we called Teach It. And in the past, we've focused almost exclusively on college students and to some extent entrepreneurs. And this year we added a component to the program to focus on faculty who teach entrepreneurship in the universities. What we're really trying to do is reach out to the smaller universities that are getting engaged in teaching entrepreneurship, but don't necessarily have the faculty depth that the larger schools have. And so we're able to bring in Rob and help with the expansion of best practices. So another activity that we're trying to really accelerate is the growth of the Seed Step Angel Network. So these are high net worth individuals who are interested in investing in early stage companies. It's an activity that's actually best done as a group, and we're successful in aggregating a number of individuals in this organization who are actively screening, evaluating, and investing in opportunities in the region. So during the first quarter, we screened one investment opportunity and reviewed 3 companies. That includes a company that was located in Wichita, Kansas. Actually, the important thing about this is the ability for groups in adjoining regions to look at deals, because it's rare that an individual group has enough money or is willing to take the risk to put all the money into a company that they might need. So being able to attract interest from other groups is something that we think will help both build stability, but also increase the likelihood that Oklahoma City companies will be able to attract money from both Texas as well as Kansas angel groups. And we've been able to leverage the work of the Angel Group, we actually had a panel at Who Wants to Be an Entrepreneur. So it gave an opportunity for the university students to interact directly with angel investors and get a better understanding of what they look for in an investment opportunity. So it gave the angels more exposure to the community at large, and it gave the university students some real-life expertise and hopefully potential for some mentors. Staying on the topic of students, our I2E fellows were really ongoing redesign and expansion of this program. We had 5 successful client-hosted I2E fellowships during the summer, and we have 1 ongoing fellowship inside I2E, and this is an individual who's a doctoral candidate with OU in the business program, and he's a prior entrepreneur, has been engaged in a couple of different incubators throughout his career, and is studying strategy and entrepreneurship at OU. And so we think we can have a long-term relationship with this individual, not only in terms of his growth as a future academic, but also in terms of looking at some of our programs and how they're operating. And so we're really looking at how to better utilize angel fellows inside I2E as well as with the companies that we're working with. During the last quarter, we continued having network events to encourage the interaction between entrepreneurs, the community, and to bring better knowledge about the I2E programs. And along those lines, we hired a e-media specialist that is doing fabulous work in terms of capturing information about the companies that we're working with and getting that information out to the market at large. And as I already pointed out, we worked with Rob Wilbank during this quarter. In terms of the overall activity to date, 6 companies have received 17 different services through this program. As we mentioned, 3 companies were presented to the Seed Step Angels, and one deal was screened, and we're still looking at potential investment through that company. And we had 2 network and training events. So our next steps are to continue the Entrepreneur in Residence program. It's been very successful, and it's received very high praise and response from the entrepreneurs in the community. We're focusing more on our sales executive in residence to really help us in the diligence and evaluation of these companies and their ability to get to early customer adoption, and then increase the work of the I2E hosted fellowships in partnership both with our companies but also inside I2E. And finally, we couldn't do this without you, so we really appreciate your support and your partnership, and happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Larry?
Are we, out of the whole program, we're expecting that the entrepreneurs will receive investment capital, for want of a better one, from these angels, that they'll use that to go into business, to create jobs and be a successful company. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Are we being unrealistic at this time in the development of I2E's efforts to not have any companies already receive money and have the actual results in front of us as to what the outcome has been?
Well, that's a good question. It's a fair question. These are these decision processes on the part of the angels and any other investor typically take quite a long time. So as they do their diligence, evaluate a company and look at the opportunity, it can take anywhere from 3 months to a year to go through that process. So we have one company locally that has received angel funding through this initiative, and it's in the process of closing as we speak, that investment. But it's taken quite a while for those angels to complete their due diligence and write checks.
Okay, so then maybe the next time you come before, you might be able to report on that one right there has been completed. And
Yes,
then
sir.
we get periodic reports on that company as they go down in the future as far as are they successful or how successful they've been?
Yes.
Is it impossible to have specific goals to measure against, or are we just kind of, well, we're still X months away from getting anything concrete on this deal or that deal?
Oh, I don't think it's impossible to have objectives. As you can imagine, dealing with early-stage companies, they're a little tough to get your arms around.
Okay, and then the other question is kind of a picky question. On the information that came out with the agenda, on page 4, it's talking about the I2E Fellows Program, and the heading says first quarter 2011 summary. Is that a typo, or is that really correct?
That would be a typo.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be first Q112.
I thought you put it in there to see if we read this stuff.
Thank you for pointing that
Do
out.
I get the gold star?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
The professors that teach at the university level entrepreneurship, do they have actual entrepreneurial background? Do they come out of that? How do they get to be a professor of an entrepreneurial type of a profession, which to me, they're almost born not taught. I mean, you learn certain things, but how do universities decide they're going to hire somebody to be an entrepreneur unless he's been one?
Well, that's a great question. You might want to take that up with the deans of the business schools.
Well, they probably don't know themselves.
Well, I can tell you that several of the entrepreneurship professors that I know have been entrepreneurs.
To me, that's the key.
And I agree. And the individuals that we bring in to meet with and do workshops with our companies are all entrepreneurs.
Well, that makes sense to bring them in for workshops, the guys that are actually out there.
Absolutely.
Why would a guy cease being an entrepreneur and become a professor? Seemed to me like
They made their money.
Okay, now, if they've made their money, that would explain it. But if not, I don't know that I would want to attend their classes unless they've been there.
I serve on the Riata Center for Entrepreneurship, and I can tell you a lot of them have made their money.
So all of them are really qualified.
In this case, at Oklahoma State University, they recruited the head of the entrepreneur school for Syracuse. And it was proven track record from their new business startups, but then they've surrounded themselves with professors who have been there and done that. And it may not be the fact that you've actually created a product. It could be the way you're thinking and more of a creative resolution of finding a void. So it's stretching your comfort zone. Sorry, I didn't need to answer that question. Sorry.
Well, no, actually, I'm glad you said that, because the last 3 people we've hired at I2E all have direct startup experience. So they didn't come out of just big companies. All 3 of them have been involved in startups in one way or another, either as a founder or a very early employee. So we couldn't agree with you more.
Good question, good answer. Thank you.
May I ask, Wayne, describe the entrepreneurial spirit in the state of Oklahoma.
Well, that's a good question, and I think the entrepreneurial spirit is quite good. I think one of the issues that we're dealing with, and I think why programs like this, I2E, and the initiative by the city is so important, is that we lack infrastructure. So we're not a capital poor state, but the capital is not organized around supporting early stage entrepreneurs. So that's why the Seed Step Angels is important. That's why the activities at the university, the Riata Center, and those other centers and the focus inside the other research institutions is extremely important, but it's really to build the infrastructure and I think to, in some respects, help give entrepreneurs the confidence that they can succeed.
Any other questions? Do you have all your executives in residence in place now?
We do, yes, sir.
Good, good. I had the opportunity to sit next to an executive from OKC last week, and he was really high on your organization. It was fulfilling a real need to give some expert advice to these young companies they couldn't afford otherwise.
Well, that's good to hear. That's nice feedback.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Item D is the next item on our agenda, and this is another report, a Project 180 status report.
Good afternoon. I'm Shannon Cox, the Project 180 Communications Coordinator, and I'm going to give you a brief update on the project. Of course, Project 180 is the downtown renovation of streets, sidewalks, and public spaces. The funding for the project comes from three major sources: the TIF District 8, city funds and general obligation bonds that were passed in 2007, and then the AQUIT funds that are used for the water utilities. These are the areas that we are working on, have worked on, and going to be working on. The area in the orange, of course, was the Reno streetscape, very near completion or complete. They are working on some punch list items on that area, as well as Package 2, which is up around the memorial, which is the purple area. Currently under construction is Package 3, which is the blue area, referred to as Walker and Main, and also the green area, which is all around the Devon Tower. Bids were taken for Package 5. Was that the last time they were taken? When were they taken? 2 weeks. Bids were taken? 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago? Sorry.
We don't stand on procedures here. We're searching for knowledge, so anybody who...
We took bids on package 5.
We have taken bids. Thank you. And of course, this is what the streets are going to look like as we progress. Driving lanes, two-way, the bike lane, which is delineated with two different colors, the charcoal gray so that the bikes know where to be, and the designation of the green so that they know where that starts. Then the parking lane, and of course the pedestrian area, which has the amenity zone, and the horizontal signals is a new change to the streetscapes. This is what it looks like at Reno and Walker. See that it's complete with all the things that we discussed. This is up by the memorial, and it shows the new landscaping and the pavers in the amenity zone. And this is while they're working on one side of the road or the other, and you can see in this picture where they're laying in the bike lane. So you can kind of see how that was constructed. And here's some of the things that we run into as we progress. Of course, when we're constructing, we're not quite sure everything underneath the street or even the sidewalk. And this is what this depicts. As we were taking the sidewalk off, we locate another basement and have to help alleviate that and do some resealing and waterproofing and some things like that as we work through. Also, when we get down in the actual streetscape, as we work through utilities, we find things like this, where we have to put all new utilities through there or try and weave what we're putting through the existing utilities.
Shannon,
Yes.
any interesting artifacts in any of those basements?
I believe there have been quite a few interesting artifacts. I think most notable on Robinson was a steel beam that was found in the roadway, and weren't quite sure what that was for.
Lots of basement lids.
Yeah, lots of interesting things.
And the basement shouldn't have been too big a surprise, because a lot of those old buildings, that was the way to load things into buildings. They had their loading elevator out into the sidewalk.
Basements weren't the surprise, it was the surprise at how far they came out, meaning underneath the sidewalk was the surprise. And of course, this is what Robinson was look like under construction. And of course, we talked about public spaces being constructed, and most notably was Myriad Gardens. They had the grand reopening on October 15th. Quite a success. They had 20,000 people attend the event. As they went through the day, there were scheduled events throughout the entire gardens. They had things going on in the band shell. They had things at the children's garden, and all the way across on the other side. There were things for the entire family to do. So it was a large event for anyone to come to. One of the events was the pumpkin patch that was held near the pavilion. Lots of people attended. We also had a farmer's market inside the pavilion, which was extremely interesting. And of course, kids were playing in the gardens. Major feature was the interactive water feature that when they went through, they got truly soaked. And of course, we had the relighting of the Crystal Bridge. all new LED lighting on it. They reglazed the panels and repainted while they had that done. And of course, the event itself ended with the concert and the relighting of the bridge. And I'll open it to questions if you guys have questions.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Are there questions? Larry?
I've got a process question here I'm confused over, and somebody could help me out. We got a November 4th update from the city manager dealing with Project 180. We had this same presentation to council already, correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct, you did.
And now we're getting it here. How do all these steps go together? Who is supposed to know what, when on this whole process? And what are we supposed to be doing? One of the things that happened here was that what we now have, instead of a $175 million project, we're down to a $160 million project. Am I right?
Originally, the public improvements were to cost $115 million for the
Right.
TIF. We still anticipate that we will spend $115 million, but that's over a 25-year time period. We borrowed $95 million from Devon. The sales tax estimates came in $10 million below what we estimated, so we haven't been able to cash fund as much as we thought up front, so we're going to have to defer some projects to later on in time. As far as the process goes, I think there were several things that happened. First of all, there was a desire to try to just provide a status report to the city council about what's going on with the streets, where we were with bid openings and construction progress. At about the same time, we got some inquiries from the media about the project and the budget, and those resulted in some articles in the newspaper. In order to keep the council informed about that those articles were about to come out, the city manager issued the memo that you're referring to. The process typically would work that the Devon Implementation Committee would hear about things first, and then they would be brought to the Economic Development Trust, and then they would go to council. But sometimes we don't live in a perfect world, and the process gets kind of jumbled up. So I think that's about as good an explanation as I can give. I think we were trying to err on the side of keeping all of the public officials, both elected and appointed, informed of the process and informed about the project and the questions that we were getting from the media. So we will be coming back to, the city manager standing up, so I guess I better be quiet. We will be coming back to the Devon Implementation Committee and the Trust and the City Council with an update on the budget and the projects.
I really probably shouldn't be here because she covered that very, very well. We have some budget issues that we're going to be bringing back to council that will go through the Devon Implementation Committee, through this trust, and through the City Council. The press wrote some stories that we weren't quite ready to respond to at that point in time. We were ready to respond to the stories. We weren't ready to bring the budget information forward at that point in time. We're about to. There are things that happened. As I mentioned at the council meeting last week, one of the things that was out there was getting the bids in on Project 5. And so that was getting the closeout of most of the myriad projects that have now taken place. And so as we're getting those again put together and we're readjusting the schedule, we're going to bring back an update to you on the budget situation. And as Kathy pointed out, it goes to the Devon Implementation Committee, to this board, and to the City Council. The reason that Shannon's presentation went to the council first was because we had a light council meeting a week or two ago, and because of that, we had an opportunity to put in a presentation that was out there, so we put it in. We do try to do that. We have a live city council meeting, we got a presentation that's on the shelf we can put in. That's what we did.
And I think Kathy used the key word defer projects, not delete projects.
Well, here's my question, Pat. For example, I've heard two things right here. I'm looking at this, at the city manager's report, and it says the TIF 8 district contained a project plan and included a budget total of $175 million, just like you said, okay, with the other. But then down here, it says we're going to go with, it's now $160 million.
That
So that tells me that tells me that the budget, I mean, let me just...
But that's the budget for the public improvements and includes the general obligation bond funds. It's the TIF money, the $115 million or 90, it's $106 million in the slides today, $106 million from the TIF, $40 million in GO bonds, and
$12 million from the water.
$12 million from the Water Trust.
Yeah. So I'm still confused. How did we go from 175? Who changes that? That's all I care about.
Okay, the $175 million is something different. That's the budget in the project plan that includes $115 million for the public improvements, $40 million for other economic developments, which was to be used to attract headquarters companies to downtown Oklahoma City, and $20 million for the other taxing jurisdictions. That totaled $175 million, and that was the project plan budget for TIF 8. Mm-hmm. The $160 million is the total of the public improvements budget only.
That includes a portion of those TIF dollars.
Money.
It includes some GO bond monies, and includes monies that come from the Water Utilities Trust.
So there's been no change in the budget?
We have a shortfall that we're going to bring forward to you on the sales tax revenues that came in under where we were projected. We've also had some overruns on $3 million on the gardens, or $4 million, or what it was on the gardens, and some adjustments on the streetscape projects that we'll be bringing to you in the near future.
And what I'm told is that the policy committee, the Devon Policy Committee, should be dealing with this issue first.
Yes.
Yes, and they will.
And then it should come to the Economic Development Trust for us to do whatever we're supposed to do, and then it's supposed to go to City Council.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay? And you used a word very interesting. Somehow this process has gotten, would you say, jumbled?
Well,
the presentation that Shannon made was only meant to be a construction update. And then the media...
I understand.
I mean, it wasn't really totally within our control.
Okay, free advice is worth what you give. We need to try to get it back in our control in the future to make this thing go step A, B, and C. This is my thinking. Maybe I'm wrong. And if the rest of the
no, I agree with you,
doesn't
Mr.
agree with
Matt.
it, that's also fine. But that's just my opinion. We ought to have the process in place so we know, who's on first and what's on second.
And we do have the process in place.
And that is the
But we
process.
had to respond to questions from the media. We
Yeah.
can't ignore them.
I agree.
Any comments or questions this side of the table? Shannon, thank you very much. I want to just make a comment. I don't know that the city project that's been implemented since I've been on the council has gotten as many favorable comments as the opening of Myriad Garden. In fact, I don't think if I've heard any favorable comments on any other project. But anyway, this has really been a success. You ought to be proud of the work that was done out there. Even though it cost a little bit more money than we planned, I think maybe it was worth it in the long haul. So thank you very much, Shannon.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is another report.
Okay, with that, no.
This is one that's not as simple as the other one.
Not as simple. Under the requirements that are in the agreement between the Economic Development Trust, the city, and the Alliance for Economic Development, I am required to provide to you quarterly status reports and periodic financial reporting. I have attached a report that I prepared for your consideration. It's rather lengthy, and I would rather not go through it bullet point by bullet point, but to try to just kind of hit the high points. I have provided an executive summary that talks about the activities that we undertook during the time period from May 1st to September 30th. A lot of the activities that we undertook during those first couple of months were startup activities, and for those of you who have started your own businesses and worked in the private sector, you know that sometimes starting things from scratch is not as easy as you think it's going to be. So we did a lot of work that just was a part of starting up a new business. Some of the other accomplishments that I think may sound like small things, but were really a pretty big achievement, was to move and consolidate the offices of the Urban Renewal Authority, the Oklahoma Industries Authority, and the INC Trust all into one new office space. We were able to, I think, upgrade the quality of the space that the Urban Renewal Authority had pretty significantly, saved them quite a bit of money on rent in the meantime. In case you don't know, we're located on the first floor of the High Tower building, and we've had quite a bit of office furniture and equipment donated to us by Devon, and now have a much more professional environment for the staff there to work in, and I think everybody's really pleased to be together, and it's been interesting how well everyone is working together and has made that transition really smoothly. Some of the other things that we've been working on, obviously Project 180 oversight and coordination, assisting the city with the development of a scope of work to address some of the land use issues that are arising between the relationship, the land use, the urban planning relationships between the selected site of the new convention center, the boulevard, and the new Central Park project. We began the development of an RFQ for consultants to make recommendations about private redevelopment and reinvestment resulting from the MAPS 3 projects. I've been working a great deal to familiarize myself with the urban renewal activities and projects. Some of the current high-profile projects include the redevelopment of the old Mercy Hospital site, which is proceeding along very well, and the site selection for the new downtown elementary school, which is on a piece of urban renewal property at Sheridan and Walker. The duties associated with administering the city's TIF districts and SIP programs, serving as surrogate general manager for the OCEDT and the general manager of several of the other trusts that are partners with the Alliance. Attended several meetings with developers about projects in Oklahoma City. I would say that the development community is becoming much more active and interested in projects again. Financing continues to be a challenge. I also was involved in working with the Myriad Gardens Foundation on the lease and the management agreement for the operations of the Myriad Gardens and the transfer of the properties at 123 South Hudson back to the Economic Development Trust. And this is something that is always on my list of things to do, and it has been for a very long time, I'm afraid, is discussions with interested developers about the Journal Record building. The Oklahoma City Industrial and Cultural Facilities Trust has owned the Journal Record building since shortly after the Oklahoma City bombing, and we have maintenance and operating expenses that are associated with the part of the building that is empty. The building is a condo, so the memorial owns the part on the west end of the building, and we still own the east end. So that's kind of like always on my list of things to do. The report that's in your packet is organized in the same manner as the scope of work that was attached to the agreement that I have with the OCEDT. So the items numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, et cetera, are exactly the same as they are in the agreement, and I've just provided you with bullet information about what I've been doing under each of those subtopics. I did include a couple of things that aren't in the agreement. One of those is startup activities, and then a list of kind of the regularly scheduled meetings I attend, just to give you some idea of what I do every week and some of the things I'm involved in. Also attached are the first quarter financial reports for the Alliance. These reports are they are a compilation report. They are not audited financial statements. Those are typically not provided on an interim period basis. And I have included a budget to actual comparison that are on, I think begins on page 5, so that you can, broken down by quarter and for the year, so you can compare my actual expenses for the quarter with what my quarterly budget would be. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If you'd like me to go into any more detail about any of the items, I'll be glad to do that. Or if you have questions later, just give me a call or email me, and I'll be glad to provide you more
questions?
information.
Yeah. You mentioned one thing, very good thing. You said that your new offices, you were able to reduce the amount of rent. I would think that I would be interested, and as you go down the line, in how much money you actually saved and things like that. Because, I mean, wasn't one of the things that we were supposed to get out of the alliance was the total scope of work that was being done within the city and being done by Urban Renewal and these other organizations, that amount of money was supposed to come down as we go along?
There is a clause in my agreement that talks about saving money and creating efficiencies, I think is the
creating
language we
efficiency.
use.
And so as you go along and do that, I would like that.
Yeah,
I think,
and I've been working on preparing that. We had a proposal into the city manager, and I'm not really sure I know what the status is of that right now, so I can't really talk about it, but a way to share some staff that the Alliance would help pay the city for, and that would create, I think it created quite a bit of savings for the city already. We have saved, just on monthly rent for Ocura, we've cut their rent in half for several months, and some other expenses that some of the other entities had for storage of records and things like that have also been reduced. So, you know, the other thing is I think we're seeing an efficiency among the staff too, where we can get a little bit higher productivity and share some of the activities among all of the staff so that we're all a little bit busier maybe than we used to be.
as you go along, I think it'd be good to have that information out, because there was a thought around when the Alliance was first formed that this was not going to have any efficiency results. And so if you can show that.
I can already show that. I don't have it all quantified quite yet, but there are some things that have already happened.
And the other thing that was supposed to happen is we were supposed to be more efficient or effective in closing deals for the GOAT bonds. And was the Alliance at all involved in any of the really good success we've had over the last several months with United Engines and the outfit from England and
Yeah, I mean,
Chesapeake and all that?
remember that many of those projects started before the creation of the Alliance, and none of that has changed. I mean,
But hopefully in the
we're
future,
involved.
as the Alliance is instrumental in closing deal X, Y, or Z, I think you ought to bring that forward also to show that this thing really is producing the economic development outcome also that we're looking for from the Alliance.
Well, and I think it's an overall approach as well. It isn't just the GOAT bond program, but it's, you know, a coordination of all of the incentive programs that the city and its trusts have to offer, not just the GOAT bond program.
Questions? I'm sorry, Larry, you guys follow? Okay.
How many employees are in the Hightower office?
There are 7 of us. Urban Renewal has some other employees that are not officed in the Hightower building.
Our secretary informs me we need a motion to receive the report. Any further discussion or questions? Please cast your votes, and the report is received.
Don't we have to do that also in the Project 180 report, or did I miss the?
It was actually a presentation.
Because on my documentation it says report be received recommendation, but that's wrong.
Was there a report or a presentation? It was just an error on the memo. Thank you.
Are there any questions? This goes a long way, I think, to answer some of the concerns that were expressed early on about transparency. I think it's a good report. Thank you very much. Are there any comments from the staff? Trustees? The public? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.